Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Della Leaders Club and my fellow panelists to have me here. It's an honor and it's really great to meet all of you in person. So I would begin by introducing Elizabeth Coffey, and it's an honor really introducing you, Elizabeth. So Elizabeth is the Managing Director of Spark Leadership in London and Mumbai, and her consultancy has been named as a distinguished lecturer for 2022. So they are a global engineering association with more than 150K members. Wow, that's incredible. And she will be taken to 20 different countries to speak on the topic of how CEOs lead for success. Internationally, she's a very, very well-known and recognized leadership consultant, speaker, and author, developing CEOs, CEO successors, and board executives of global 500 companies across industries. She develops senior leaders across EMEA, Asia, and North America and she's been doing it for about 20 years now. That's actually a wonderful achievement, Elizabeth. She's co-authored several books on leadership, including one focused on developing CEOs. She's recognized as an expert on leadership, diversity. She's consulted globally, written 2 books, and won several awards in her field. She's taught more than tens of thousands of leaders internationally on how to manage organizational politics practically and ethically. Wonderful to meet you, Elizabeth, and welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much, Kartika. I'm delighted to be able to reciprocate and indeed introduce you. This is Kartika Thiagi, and Kartika is originally from India. She passed the bar in Delhi, I understand, and is now based in Dubai. She started out her career in law in civil and criminal litigation, but I was surprised and interested to read that she has really broadened her expertise across quite a wide range. So she, in the UAE, has learned about arbitration, has had experience in both commercial and also corporate legal practices. She developed an expertise in various aspects of white collar. She's worked in private office law, has focused at board level on governance issues. And then she moved, interestingly to me, into more of the human rights legal arena, developing a real specialty in the diversity and inclusion side, where I understand she's had both paying and pro bono clients. And there's been quite a lot of focus on discrimination, particularly of, I'm guessing, minority populations. So I'm delighted to be here to talk to you today as part of our panel.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thanks a lot.
I know Ingrid from World Business Angel Forum, where she has a very prominent role leading many of the chapters that are really heart of the World Business Angel organization. And she has always impressed and amazed me with a lot of different foundations, like Science Foundation she has built, from what I remember. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And she has also been instrumental in leading quite some innovative mission tasks in many parts of the world. But Ingrid can tell you more. So that is maybe a little bit of a very small introduction about you, Ingrid.
No worries. Thank you. And again, thank you for inviting me. A pleasure to be with you here today. For the past 20 years, I've been mostly a healthcare executive. However, I also participate in numerous not-for-profit initiatives around the world, because I think we share similar passions. One of them is the Government Blockchain Associations, which has 90 chapters around the world. WBF, which Deniz already mentioned, we're in 120 plus countries represented. I'm also an ambassador for Women in AI. I also work closely with the Global Council for Promotion of International Trade, in addition, of course, to being part of the Della Club. And I also have the opportunity to work with colleagues that are on the expert panel for the European Union, as well as several other United Nations affiliated groups that aim to facilitate attainment of the SDGs. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to our panel.
Thank you so much.
Deniz, maybe you can go next and introduce yourself. Similarly, you're also involved in multiple initiatives around the world and very dedicated to promoting not only women leadership, but also entrepreneurship.
Indeed. I've been an entrepreneur for since 2013. My name is Deniz Misir. I've established V22 International Advisory joint stock company back in 2013, and we've been the first company in Turkey to provide family office services. I've always been someone that follows passion, and for me, in my entrepreneurial journey, what has really struck me most was like what is an authentic desire that we want to achieve with our companies that we built versus toxic desire. So that has been the differentiator in my entrepreneurial journey. And my authentic desire is to really promote sustainability to help world's well-being. And on that, I find that capital is, if you look at the elements of business, that's the water. I can't tell more, but I have dedicated more or less my whole life to the elements of business and to find a balance among these elements of business so we can really create some differentiation in this world to the next generation. So thank you.
I am Airhart Witte. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's 6:56 a.m. here for me. I'm an author, a speaker, and the founder of the Desire to Inspire Foundation. My purpose in life is to help uplift people everywhere I go. My focus is mainly on children because children are the innocence of the world. And the thought of a child not believing that they're special and that they're here for a reason hurts my heart. So if I get to be that person to instill that in their head and to plant that seed with them, that's why I do all that I do. So it is an honor to be here with all of you beautiful women, and I'm so excited.
Wonderful. I think it's great to be a part of this group. So shall we begin our discussion then?
If you allow me, I think what I was hoping to share, if possible, is that I strongly believe in the importance of early education as well as education through all levels, not only middle school, high school, college, but also executive education. And I think that's probably the most important one that I've seen, not only giving short-term success, but also allowing us to have sustainable success in empowering women. And I think that early education can also heavily influence the culture change and the mindset change that we're all hoping to achieve. The second thought I wanted to share that has worked for me, and I hope to maybe inspire others, is that focusing on your passion and innovation and always finding your own path, being original. It's very good to have mentors. It's very good to learn from others what has worked and what has not worked. But when you create your own path, it's really important to be true to yourself. You can't copy others because it's not going to be sustainable. So originality, integrity are very important. And when I say integrity, I mean it in a holistic way, not just from an ethical and moral perspective, but also integrity to what you believe in and what makes you happy as an individual and what passions you would like to pursue. So my general advice to young women when I have the chance is to, yes, we want to learn as much as possible. We want to, from mistakes and successes, but it's always extremely valuable to know who you are, what works for you, what skill sets you have, and then try to create that path that's unique to you. And last but not least, I know sometimes we say that there are certain skills that are unique to men and women and what works for men or women. I happen to think that it's not about men or women. It's about what unique value do you bring at anything you do at any point in your life. And if you always find a way to bring additional value, the path will be easier. I'm not saying we don't have barriers, but I think there are always barriers to everybody, maybe different ones. And I think having an approach that is focused on bringing value and finding solutions to problems that everybody faces has worked extremely well for me over the past few years. Hopefully, maybe one person at least identifies with that, and that would make me happy. Thank you.
Great. I would love to contribute a couple of things to this panel, and one of them that I'd like to do is to actually talk about my own path to becoming an entrepreneur, because I think it has some learning in it, and that I'll try to point out. And then I'd like to talk about how you can create a culture that actually enables more diversity to kind of bubble up. But let me start with my own story. So I'm from New York originally and have lived for the last 35 years in London. And I've always done the development of people. Even from the time I was a child, I came from an educational family. And so we kind of were taught to teach in a way. So it was very vocational for me. And as a result, when I was 37, I joined what was, then one of only 3 companies that were doing board level coaching in the UK. And at the time, all of my colleagues were male, and they were on average 20 years older than me. So I was like the baby. I was the only non-British person, and I was the first woman. There had been a glut of women clients who wanted to wait for a woman coach. And so when I arrived, I suddenly had this deluge of all these women that didn't want to be coached by men. So in the beginning, I had about 67% of my client base of leaders who were female. And what was really interesting to me was I saw a really different style to coach. So to push back on you a little bit, Ingrid, a lot of difference between the way men talked about leadership and women talked about leadership. And that actually led to myself and 2 other colleagues doing a piece of research at the time in the UK in 1999 about women leaders in the UK, which was at the time the first book that actually gave voice to women who were in really senior leadership roles. So we interviewed 52 women across 20 industries, and the women themselves said, you must make this into a book. Once it became a book in 99, I started getting a lot of speaking engagements. And inevitably, it began to build my own profile. Without my really trying to, it sort of evolved in that direction. It turns out that I like speaking, and that I spoke well enough that more people would ask me. And so it kind of built and built. And I mentioned this because I think it's incredibly important for women who want to become entrepreneurs to recognize how important it is to build profile in the marketplace. Because what we found was that the market was more receptive to the book than our male colleagues initially. And then when they began to realize it was bringing more business, then it was exciting. So I had a lot of clients at the time. I had about 35 clients, which is a lot, as Dawn will know. And I also ended up being, just almost by accident, a really big business developer. I was asked, because of one of my talks, to write another book about developing chief executives. And at that point, so I wrote that book with several of my colleagues, and I was then basically kind of headhunted to another job where I worked for about 3 years. And in the course of that job, I learned about large-scale change consulting, and then I was offered 2 big jobs at the same time, not in the company, but outside in very different fields. At that point, my friends said to me, Liz, you know how to do the work, you have the skills, you know how to build business, you have a profile, why don't you go out on your own? And I have to say, I had never thought about it myself, but my friends nudged me in that direction. And I thought, well, yes, you're right. I have these things. And that actually gave me the impetus to actually take the leap and do that. That was 16 years ago. So I kind of started the business 16 years ago and have kind of like gone from strength to strength in that business, up through ups and downs in the market, and sort of still here by the skin of my teeth. But what occurred to me was, what do you actually need as a woman to start your own entrepreneurial venture? You need the expertise, whatever that is. And Ingrid, to your point, absolutely an expertise that's going to add value. But you need confidence. And I didn't have that self-belief until my friends nudged me. So sometimes I think this is very interesting with women, that we often may not actually have it so naturally in ourselves, but it's actually, how do you get to that self-belief? Who are your big fans? What do they think? So it's kind of accessing that is important. Having the profile already meant that I knew I could start with a couple of clients that were going to become anchor clients for me. The people who wanted to hire me were going to become clients. So that gave me a kind of foundation. A sense of humor, I think, is always incredibly important. in life, particularly as a consultant. It really helps build relationship and cut through some of the awkwardness. And then finally, I think it's about having a style which on one hand is authoritative and on the other approachable. And that actually is a very difficult kind of range for women often to get right. But you have to be able to be friendly and people want to get to know you. And at the same time, you have to command respect by actually, being clear that you know stuff that other people don't know. So I'll stop blabbing, but I just wanted to share that because my final point about this, in retrospect, I started my business just as, without knowing it, just as the financial markets were crashing, in 2005, and they really kind of crashed about two years later. And, if I had known that, of course, it was basically like jumping out of a plane, not being clear about whether or not you had a parachute on the back. And it's very alarming to move into an entrepreneurial role, especially when you have other safer routes to go. So you have to really kind of have a sense of, yes, I can do this.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. And I wanted to just take it forward from where you left it. When you said that you probably didn't go or start off as an entrepreneur on your own, but your friends nudged you. For me, it was also kind of an accidental start, and it was rather an emotional and accidental start. I was going through a very tough time in my family, personal life and career in 2009 when my son was born. I had a very difficult job where I had to travel like my office will call me and say, your ticket is ready and your flight is booked for tonight, so please just pack your bag and leave. And I would have to leave my 2-year-old with my nanny and my husband. I would land and my husband would call, okay, he's running high temperature. And this was the same time when I got a very bad news that there was a very bad experience with one of the nannies. And I was there standing on crossroads. I had to decide between my family and my job, my career, whether to quit or to continue. And most of the women in such situations decide to quit because they feel, yes, I have to be there for my child. I have to be there, for this young individual who we have brought into this world, and we are fully responsible for that person. Yes, we are. But again, at the same time, and my husband has a very big role to play in this. He was very supportive. And what he told me at that point is that if you quit now, then you will never forget it and you will never probably forgive yourself. If you continue now, your son is going to respect you your whole life. There are, of course, hurdles that will always come, whenever you are thinking of taking your career or to move ahead. But those hurdles should not stop you forever. Your hurdles they're just problems, and every problem has a solution to it. And so did I find a solution. I decided to move on my own. I quit my job, of course, because it was a hectic traveling job. I quit my job, started with just 2 clients of my own. But I did. It was a bumpy start to begin with. However, I would go spend first half of my day in the office, come back, spend second half of my day, work from home while looking after my child. And it was, yes, I had to juggle a lot of things. Yes, I had to I had a lot of sleepless nights. It was not easy, but then I sailed through it. And today, when I look back at it, I see my son is actually blossoming into a very, very responsible child. But he just respects so much. Like he respects my work. He knows that, yes, I have done a lot to reach a point in my career. While I did not, ignore him. But a lot of women, yes, have told me on my face, oh, you ignore your child. You're not a good mother. Probably you should decide to be with him, forever. This is what you should do. You are not supposed to focus on your career. You are supposed to focus on your children. So children come first, family comes first. But now I have managed to strike a balance between the two. And I believe women should not be the first ones to think about quitting, because children are a joint responsibility. Husband and wife, mother and father should take that responsibility together. Even if you're a single mother, there are a lot of lot of options that you have if you come to think of it. You just have to find a solution. You just have to work towards it. And I don't think anything is impossible if you decide to do it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
I'm actually amazed listening to your stories, and I'm like trying to see where we have some similarities and where might not be. And reminds me of a conversation I just had before joining in. I was talking to another woman entrepreneur who's also based in our space, and she was saying, Deniz, do you think it's the journeys choosing us, or us choosing this entrepreneurial journey? So did I choose my entrepreneurial journey? Did the entrepreneurial journey choose me? I think a little bit of both. We more or less said that we have that commonality, that it is kind of both. As a woman director, before I became an entrepreneur, I was representing the Netherlands for investment agencies, Turkey, and surrounding countries as the first non-Dutch diplomat being assigned to this precious job. And I was the first woman. I was super young and I was non-Dutch. So you can imagine all the seemingly disadvantages to be appointed. And how was I appointed is something I should probably share for our audience. You know, I came up with the idea. I managed to convince our management to send me to The Hague. I joined there. I started a pilot project, which was successful. I came back. I had 2 jobs at the same time. This was around, really like around 30. I was max when I was assigned as 32 as the area director to Turkey. What I experienced with young entrepreneurs or let's say executives, if they are listening to me, it's, in my experience, it's easy to make this happen. If you are super committed, if you're like super heartily connected to whatever it is, either the journey is bringing to you or you are doing yourself, it is easy. What is more difficult, especially for women, is to be even more, to get to the next level. And where are we heading into the challenges? In my own eyes, we have this glass ceiling that we do, not necessarily others do on us. And these glass ceilings that we super unconsciously do is coming mostly from our families. To give you an example, my father was a lawyer whom I've lost. My mother is a primary school teacher, and for them, me joining after this super diplomatic high-level position, establishing my own company, which I was kind of obligated to. I couldn't find a good job at the time. So I was really obliged to establish my own entrepreneurial journey. So the journey found me as well. But for family, this was like, oh, wow, this is so unsecure for Deniz. Why the hell on earth would she leave such a position and do such a crazy thing? No one understood it, really. And looking back, a lot of time has passed. I feel that one of my biggest learnings as an entrepreneur was to always feel that they had a point. Who was I to do that? For years, I have had a lot of challenges to break my own glass ceiling. Forget about the glass ceilings that companies, clients, economies, countries have brought on me. Just forget about them. Only this one that I have carried. So I really feel that this discussion we have is more important than it seems, but in a way that it brings us the awareness that this is not a man-woman thing, but it is more a very, how to say, like Ingrid said about education, like Elizabeth said about coaching and growth, like Kartika said about courage. It's all about those very simple human values, which we unfortunately consciously forget, and sometimes consciously try to remember, but unconsciously still stick to this addiction. So that is the glass ceiling I want us to break. for always.
Oh, I would love to jump in here now. What everyone has said has been so inspiring and so wonderful. And I think one of the common threads that I see throughout all of it is us believing in ourselves. We have that inside dialogue that tells us, we're not good enough. We don't have this qualification. We don't have this experience. And once somebody plants the seed, like with Liz, you said your friends planted the seed in your head. Sometimes it takes somebody external, but what I want to help people do is plant that seed in their own mind. Believe in yourself. And what you were saying, Kartika, about, taking that scary step. And you don't know what's on the other side of the scary, but I promise you, when you do that, like, all the magic happens. That's where the world opens up. And then we break our own glass ceiling, because I think the biggest glass ceiling is in our own minds. My journey, just quickly, I was a stay-at-home mom, my daughter's entire their entire life. They're now 31 and 30. And so, when they were in college, I remember looking at my life saying, okay, well, I'm just a mom. I'd said it my whole life. I'm just a mom. I'm just a mom. And I think being a mom is immensely important and valuable and worthwhile. But I only identified myself as just being a mom. And then I thought, what do I have to offer the world? What do I have to offer anybody? And I had to start believing in my own gifts and my own skills and my own talents, and understand I am here to bring something to the world, not just children, but something else. And when I realized that I was valuable, just for the sake that I exist, I want to share that with everybody. I want to share that with the children, especially, so that they don't have to grow up having that negative self-talk and telling themselves, well, who am I to do this? Or I'm not good enough to do this. I want them to believe that they can, because if we believe that we can do something and we have something valuable to give to the world, we're going to bring something valuable to the world. And I just feel like when we're all bringing something valuable to the world, then we're happy. We put out happy energy comes to us. And it's just this ripple effect that grows and grows. So I love getting to do what I do. And I don't call myself just a mom anymore. I'm Dawn Witte. I'm proud of who I am, and I value what I have to bring to the world. So thank you so much for letting me listen to all of you. I could listen to you all day. You all inspire me.
Dawn, that is so inspiring. You started basically where people think that their life has just come to an end, right? So that is actually inspiring. And it should, I'm sure, a lot of young women listening to you, or maybe a lot of women who just think that they're just moms, would really get inspired by this. Wow. So it must have been like really tough, or was it like easy to do it? How easy was it really?
Again, it's really changing that inner dialogue of I'm just anything to, I have something important, unique, valuable to bring to the world, because I believe we all do in our own unique ways, so we can't compare our journey with anybody else's. I live in a community where there are a lot of professionals. Everybody went to Harvard and Stanford. In my head, this is what I'm thinking, right? And it's like, no, that's not what it is. And my value is not based on where I went to school, what degree I earned, or, what work I'm doing in the world. My value is just because I exist. And then I get to add something positive and uplifting to the world. And I feel like if we took everything we do and understand that we're either adding or subtracting to the universe, then we get to choose that. And I want to add to the world.
I really identify, Dawn, with this kind of idea of the labels we put on ourselves. And I want to give you a couple of examples, one from my own experience and then one from a client, from a multiple of clients, but I'll just reference one of them. This point, Deniz, that you talk about in terms of our self-belief and the kind of glass ceilings we put, I think a lot of it is very unconscious, as you say. So I had the experience that when I wrote that first book, there was a book launch in Scotland, and my son, who at the time was about 8, wanted to come with me. Anyway, he came with me to the book launch, and I was signing books, because they were asking me to sign books. And he started going around and telling people that his mother was an author. And I felt really uneasy, because I thought, I'm not an author. Like, yes, I co-wrote this book, and like, what's the definition of, well, it's writing a book, it's kind of, but he was proudly going out there and saying, my mother is an author. And then he wanted to sign as well. So he was kind of signing the books too. And I thought there is something in, a boy's makeup that he kind of like just grabs all of that. And it took me a while to feel at ease with actually saying that I'm also an author. So it's kind of, I've had the experience myself, but I see it all the time with my clients. And Dawn, I don't know if you do, but I see this constantly. So I'll give you a kind of example from 20 years ago. I was working with a woman who was the first female global head of something at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And she said, Lisa, I feel really uneasy about this title. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, if I go to a dinner party and somebody says, what do you do? She'll say, I work for PwC. And it's like, yeah, but there's like literally tens of thousands of people who work. Why aren't you saying that you're like a global head of blah? She said, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. So we made an agreement that she would go home and practice in the mirror. Hi, my name is X, and I'm the global head of at PwC, until she could do it without laughing. So that was like her homework assignment. And I don't think this is unusual. I often have people who are female, who are clients of mine, where they really feel uneasy, almost owning who they are and stating it in a way that's comfortable for them, authentic, but actually where they own it.
True. That's absolutely true. It's very, I don't know, but most of the women feel uneasy about what they're doing, even discussing or saying it. And I know that what you said, that other people have to make them realize their potential sometimes, like your 8-year-old my mother's an author, or you telling your client. But it happens with most of us, because that is what probably what Dawn said, or what Ingrid said, that yes, this is what happens, that yes, we self-doubt, we don't believe in ourselves, and that is what probably is the most dangerous trait, and most common as well, right? All of us probably go through that, but yes, we need to learn, and we need to be more accepting to what we are doing, and we're really doing good. I think we're all multitaskers, and we really need to accept that fact.
If I may add a few of my learnings on top of this discussion of the ceiling, some of my key learnings have been about the differences about managing a business versus having a vision, creating products, finding the right monetization model around it, building up teams. So I was just looking into the question of how is a product manager, for instance, different from an entrepreneur, or how is a marketing function different from an entrepreneurial journey. So in my experience, some of the key learnings that if we could learn by the beginning of our journey and not later in the stage, is how we work around our own entrepreneurial journeys themselves. Once you, at least that is in my journey, so once you come across this glass ceiling that you create internally, once that you are going above the emotional or internal traps, then the external reality, which is a real-time reality, is becoming more clear. And this external reality, which shows itself in terms of our consequences or results with respect to the company that we built, is quite actually data-driven. And it's actually also a lot about creativity, and a lot about business model innovation, and a lot about selecting the right target audience. So, and these skills are needing us to deep work instead of do shallow work. I've been following Calport and how he has been modeling the deep work discussion. I've changed the way I now do my entrepreneurial work. I'm doing a lot more deep work, which I have been finding it's a game changer. I wish I knew much earlier. So if there are young entrepreneurs joining us or listening to us later, please remember, it's not just about the internal dynamics for an entrepreneur, it's also about the external dynamics. And there are some concrete, really very effective tools which you should learn, we should use from the beginning of the journey. And it's now more democratized access to these kinds of tools. So like any entrepreneurial is, keep curiosity, keep exploring, keep the play to his teams, to his clients, to the greater community. That's why we are going through this incredible journey. So thank you for DLC for giving us this opportunity to be connected again. I think entrepreneurs should have this connection.
Yes, we're not alone. I think that this demonstrated that so beautifully. We all, these accomplished women from around the globe, we have the self-doubt too, and we got to a place where we started believing in ourselves more. And my last thing that I want to chime in and say is, when you know your why you're doing what you're doing, not just because I want to make money, but there's good in it for others, and that is your starting point, all kinds of avenues, opportunities, connections open up for you. And it really is magical when you watch it start unfolding.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for sharing like this.
It was lovely meeting all of you. Thanks a lot.